Yes. Welcome to the Marijuana Time Show, everybody. My name is Joe Klare. I am your host. It's March 15th, 2018. You can find myself and many other great writers over at marijuanatimes.org covering the cannabis community and industry and beyond. Of course, every episode of the Marijuana Time Show can be found on marijuanatimes.org. Thank you to everyone who shares. You can also search Apple Podcasts. Search the Marijuana Times on there to get the audio-only version of the show. For those of you on the go, stories we're talking about today, a big battle is shaping up between the state of California and marijuana business listing giant Weedmaps. Talk about that, plus an update on the police chief that was caught on video smoking marijuana out of a broken bowl, an inexplicably broken bowl. I don't know why you smoke marijuana out of a broken bowl. In this day and age, we live in the first world of marijuana smoking accessories and marijuana ingestion accessories. There's no need to smoke out of a broken glass bowl with a jagged edge. Maybe cut your lips, chip one of your teeth. It's crazy. Anyway, it was crazy for him to be smoking marijuana on video, considering the fact that he was a police chief. But he did that, so I guess the broken bowl was secondary. Also, we'll talk about Washington, D.C. and the possibility of marijuana sales there anytime soon. A little spoiler alert. It's not looking good for legal marijuana sales in Washington, D.C. Talk about all of that coming up. But first, of course, the Marijuana Time Show is brought to you by NatureSideCannabis.com. Natureside has their line of organic, all-natural pesticides. Don't use harmful chemicals on your grow to get rid of pests. Use natural, organic pesticides from NatureSideCannabis.com. Grow safe and poison-free. Natureside, side is spelled CIDE. They can also help you become regulatory compliant in the state that you're growing in. There's always, no matter what state you're growing in, if you're growing legally, there are regulations about pesticide use. Natureside is approved for pesticide use on cannabis grows in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon. Check them out. NatureSideCannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. First story is from marijuanatimes.org. Written by yours truly. Authorities in California order Weedmaps to stop listing unlicensed marijuana businesses. Now, the California Bureau of Cannabis Control, they ordered Weedmaps to take down advertisements for companies in the state that do not have valid licenses. They sent a letter to Ghost Management Group, which owns Weedmaps, and their CEO, Doug Francis, on February 16th. The Bureau said the Weedmaps must immediately cease all activity that violates state cannabis law. The letter goes on to say that because a cannabis business in California needs, quote, a valid license from a state licensing authority to legally operate a commercial cannabis business within the state of California, that Weedmaps must remove all listings for businesses that do not have such a license. The CBCC claims that Weedmaps is, quote, aiding and abetting in violations of state law, end quote, by having the advertisements on their site. Now, for their part, the owners of Weedmaps responded and basically said, hey, buddy, screw you. I was a little more in-depth than that, but that is the gist. Weedmaps says that since the website is not licensed by the state of California, that the CBCC has no jurisdiction over what businesses are listed on the site and whether or not those businesses have a license. Weedmaps also claims that the company is an interactive computer service that is covered under the Federal Communications Decency Act, and they cannot be treated as a publisher of information provided by a third party under that law. And Weedmaps went on to say basically that it's up to any business that lists with them to be compliant with local and state law, and it's not Weedmaps' problem whether they are or not. That's in the California. They say that's California's problem. Now, the reason Weedmaps would fight this is pretty obvious. Just in California alone, there's probably thousands of unlicensed businesses that advertise on Weedmaps. That's a ton of revenue for Weedmaps, and they have a point. I mean, Weedmaps is not licensed by the state of California. It's not like California has any leverage over Weedmaps that can pull their license or whatever. Whatever California decides to do, I mean, I guess they can take them to court, which might be what happens, and it may drag through the court system. But for now, I can see Weedmaps' point that they're just not going to say okay and roll over and give up what could be millions of dollars in ad revenue. No business would do that because that would be crazy of them. You can check out that story, as I said, at marijuanatimes.org. All of the stories we talk about here on the show are linked in the description of this video, whether it's on the website or YouTube or on Facebook. This next story is from usnews.com. The weed smoking police chief has resigned after the pot smoking video. We played you the video last week. So I think this is the second update about this. He was suspended and now he has resigned. Basically, the Mississippi police chief who was caught on video, as I said, smoking a broken bowl, saying, quote, "I'm the only chief of police in Lumberton that likes to smoke weed," in his very specific incrimination of himself. he was very explicit. It reminded me of those guys that are like the guys that are wearing wires, and it's like on their lapel, and they grab the lapel and pull it up to their face and say, say the code word really loud. It's like he was almost like he knew, hey, I'm a police chief in Lumberton. I'm smoking weed. This is what I'm doing, in case you weren't paying attention to the video. And his uniform's even in the background. It's really a cacophony of incriminating things. And for his part, the guy said, the Shane Flint guy, Lumberton, Mississippi police chief, said apparently it was an ex of his that he let video him, and then after, exes are, they don't, little acrimony between the two. So the ex decided to publish this video, and it made its way around, of course, went viral. And well, the rest is history. The guy's no longer the police chief. It's poor judgment. It's poor judgment, that's for sure. Just being explicitly incriminating on video and being the police chief, you really should know better. But apparently not. He did not know better, and now he has lost his job, which is not surprising. This last story from WAMU.org. D.C. and Congress block public vote on legalizing marijuana sales in Washington, D.C. The D.C. Board of Elections blocked a proposed ballot initiative that sought to legalize the retail sale of marijuana in the city and direct 40% of the resulting tax revenues to black residents. The board said putting the initiative on the D.C. ballot would violate city law, as well as a congressional prohibition that stops D.C. from taking any additional steps to lower penalties on marijuana. The initiative was submitted to the board in January by Asar Mustafa. Speaking to the board, he said legalizing marijuana sales would bring the city billions of dollars in tax revenue, a portion of which he said would go to help address the needs of the city's black residents. Quote, "Those same men and women the city has typecast as criminals. If you legalize cannabis, you're talking about employing those people, and you get a chance to tax them while they're working in the cannabis industry." The board's three members explained that the initiative could not legally appear on a D.C. ballot because it directs a proportion of tax revenues from marijuana sales to black residents in D.C. D.C. law does not allow initiative to be used to appropriate funds or discriminate based on race or gender. There's also the matter of Congress. In late 2014, Representative Andy Harris of Maryland inserted a provision into the city's annual budget that prohibits officials from taking any further steps to legalize or regulate marijuana. So basically what you're left with in Washington, D.C. is possession is legal, and sharing is legal, and growing is legal, but sales are not legal, which is just, fantastic. If you're a black market dealer, it's great. You can grow it, and then people who buy it from you are allowed to possess it. But in that transaction, that sales transaction, however many seconds that takes, that's when you're actually breaking the law. But everything else is perfectly legal. So, I mean, this is the best it gets. If you're an illegal dealer in Washington, D.C., just a few seconds of the entire thing is actually illegal. So you have to be caught in that time, or you can just say, hey, I shared it with him. I'm allowed to share. I'm sharing them. I'm a good person. Sharing the weed, sharing the love. That is going to do it for the Marijuana Time Show. Thanks to NatureSideCannabis.com for being a proud sponsor of the show. Check out the organic, all-natural pesticides. Also, make sure you check out marijuanatimes.org for these shows, all the great articles, and more. And if you find the video, wherever you watch it, please share, like, comment, all that. Help us spread the truth about cannabis. Through this show, you're helping us grow the show all the time. We're coming up on 100 episodes already. It's incredible, and it's all thanks to you. So keep sharing and all that. It's March 15th, 2018. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time on the Marijuana Times Show.